It is yet another day for Hanju to try his luck at yielding valuable cultivation potential. With great hope, he rolls the dice and lands up with trash cultivation, which is nothing less than mockery. He can't help but utter much-deserved profanities. In his previous life, he lived on Earth in the 21st century. He was diagnosed with terminal cancer at a very young age. He decided not to undergo the treatment anymore and waited for his end at home. That night, to help him ease his pain, he played a nostalgic cultivation-themed game and eventually passed away. But when he opened his eyes, he realized he was in the cultivation world, reincarnated in the Cultivation Sect. His parents were servants of Elder Iron, an alchemy master of the Outer Jade Pure Sect. The Outer Jade Pure Sect is an orthodox cultivation sect within the Great Yan dynasty. His parents planted medicinal herbs for Elder Iron. When Han was 6 years old, his parents abandoned him. So, Han started working for him. The world he was born in gave him a system that allowed Han to roll a dice every day to determine his cultivation potential. The dice can only be rolled once in 24 hours. It has been 11 years, and he is still pursuing longevity. The next day, after some stretching and exercise, Han rolls the dice and the system lands a blow on his face with 1,000 years of garbage potential. Not losing hope, he tries his luck at Connate Providence. Lo and behold, he lands with 4 supreme-grade Connate Providences, making him wiggle in excitement. A new dream ensues in Han's mind, to rule the cultivation world. Suddenly, an announcement breaks his chain of thoughts. 2 cultivators have come to visit their sect. Everybody gathers and looks at the cultivators in awe. Han, however, is envious. The male cultivator announces they are now responsible for protecting Elder Iron's herb garden, and they wish not to be disturbed by the servants. Han is shocked at the instantaneous change and wonders if something happened to Elder Iron. The female cultivator explains that fiendish cultivators have recently infiltrated the Pure Sect, so Elder Iron had to leave to settle the issue. Han sighs in relief. He still needs Elder Iron's protection till he rolls a supreme cultivation potential. His misfortune is back after a day's leave and sticks to him for the next 2 years. One day a proclamation is made announcing Elder Iron's return after 2 years. Everybody gathers to greet him. Suddenly Han and 3 other kids get called by Elder. A wave of curiosity spreads among the crowd. Elder makes the kids stand in a line and asks them to stretch their hands so he can examine their cultivation potential. Han gets nervous. He sees blood on Elder's clothes and imagines Elder sacrificing one of them to heal his injuries. Lucky for him, he hasn't cultivated his potential. All of the kid beside him has, and to everybody's surprise, Elder asks him to become his disciple. It takes another 3 years for the angels to smile at him again. And when the dice roll finally leads him to unlock a top-tier potential, the spiritual physique of 6 paths, Han squeals with joy. He can finally start cultivating. But he decides to keep it a secret, fearing Elder Iron. In a miraculous turn of events, the system lets him know that he can create a barrier that will help him hide any changes. He chooses to create the barrier and starts the system. A bright light engulfs him, making him scared. A mysterious voice addresses Han. It prophesizes that all the hardships Han endured since childhood honed him to carry a bigger responsibility. It claims that Han will surpass everybody in the art of sword fighting. The voice also tells Han that he has accidentally awakened the immortal Emperor's inheritance and obtained the unparalleled 6 paths of reincarnation technique. It then presents the 6 cultivations, thunder, earth, fire, water, wood, and wind, to choose from. After much contemplation, Han realizes that all 6 attributes must be developed together. So he picks the swordsman cultivation path. The system activates, and Han is enveloped by the energy that makes his body feel warm and full of vigor. He still fears Elder, and when his face pops up on the screen, Han jumps from his place. The system indicates that Elder hates him, and if he finds out about Han's cultivation potential, he will scheme against Han to bring him down. After calling out Elder all sorts of names and curses, Han rationalizes that Elder probably hates him because of his stingy parents who fled. Putting these thoughts aside, Han is ready to start cultivating. With unique hand gestures, he sits to meditate. He plans to leave the place once he reaches the 9th stage of Qi refinement realm. Sitting with his eyes closed, he senses energy orbs floating all around his room. He can only sense wind, earth, wood, and water, but not fire and thunder in the vicinity of the medicinal herb garden. He doesn't think much of it and concentrates on cultivating the 4 types of Qi. The system presents him with 2 options: Since Han wants to keep his cultivation potential a secret, he chooses the option to keep a low profile and cultivate. This will allow him to hide his cultivation and cultivation potential. 2 years have passed. Han has cultivated the 4 types of qi to the 7th stage of the qi refinement realm. He is able to grow his medicinal herbs phenomenally. Han feels smug as he has suddenly become popular with the ladies as his charisma has elevated after he started cultivation. He's lost in his pomposity when he hears cultivator Xing, the female cultivator, calling his name. Xing wants to talk to him about something alone and asks him to follow her to the woods. Han is worried because Xing never talks to the servants, and now all of a sudden, she wants to talk to him. Sensing his nervousness, Xing says he doesn't have to get nervous and only wants a favor. She wants Han to get her Elder Iron's alchemy recipe. In return, she will help him cultivate and eliminate his mortal status. Together they can return to the fiendish cult and become a Tao couple. Han stands there petrified upon realizing the woman standing before him is from the fiendish cult. Han is in trouble because if he does as she says, he'll betray the entire Jade Pure sect and be hunted to the ends of the earth. But if he refuses to do so, the fiendish woman will surely eliminate him. Han assesses the surroundings and finds that yelling won't help him. Xing puts a rest to Han's dilemma and says she'll give him some time to think about it. Han is smart enough not to face her head-on. Instead, he acts oblivious to where the recipe might be and reminds her that her partner guards Elder's pavilion. But Xing won't take no for an answer. She pins Han on the ground with just one move and tells him he doesn't have to worry about the guards as she will take care of them. Elder has gone in search of herbs to extend his life and won't return for a few years. She then takes out a pill and shoves it into Han's mouth. She claims it will help him unlock his cultivation potential, but Han thinks she is poisoning him. Han rushes back home after the entire ordeal and asks the system to expel the pill from his body. He soon regurgitates and curses Xing, who plans to make him her husband. Han is still plucking his hair, unable to decide what to do when the system presents him with missions that come as a blessing in disguise. He will be rewarded with sword technique skills for defying Xing's request. He knows what he needs to do. That night, while Han is meditating, Xing tips him that the recipe is in Elder's study room. She will lure the guards away. She warns him of the formations in the pavilion, which intimates Elder as soon as something goes wrong. Han reaches Elder's castle and finds the male cultivator eliminated brutally. Han decides to put up an act, but really he is just slacking off. To his horror, Xing catches on to his intentions and threatens to get rid of him. Han takes a few steps back to avoid confrontation and bumps into the cabinet, making one of the clay pots fall and break, revealing the alchemy recipe. Xing ominously walks towards Han. Han thinks this is it for him, but to his surprise, Xing hugs him, calling him her lucky charm. She then shifts her focus to opening the recipe scroll. For a brief moment, Han thinks of landing a sneak attack on her, as she used most of her energy luring the guards away. All of a sudden, they are overpowered by Elder, who gains possession of the scroll once again. He was already suspicious of the 2 cultivators as they had accepted his mission antithetical to his disciples, who never accepted his missions. He was waiting for them to show up. Xing decides to run and uses the fiendish cult's ultimate escaping technique to escape Elder's wrath, as she doesn't have any power left to face Elder. Han, who got knocked out by Elder's intervention, finally comes to his senses. He narrates everything to Elder. Elder mocks him for believing that Xing was going to groom him to be her husband. Han doesn't mind, as in his mind, he is already receiving an award for his acting. He is happy he managed to get the reward for his mission being a success and unlocks the sword technique. For the next 2 years, he polishes his sword technique, which enables him to cut through anything with his bare fingers. He also manages to cultivate all 4 spiritual roots to the 9th level of the Qi refining realm. Since there is no lightning and fire Qi around the herb garden, it is time for him to leave the place. He leaves the gardens and approaches the gate of the Jade Pure sect, where he plans to start his cultivation. Han is stopped at the gate by the guards for the sect pass. Han tells them that he is a rogue cultivator and has achieved the 9th level of the Qi refinement realm. The guards are taken aback after hearing this. They are soon approached by Niang Lu, the outer sect warden of the Jade Pure sect. He greets Han with deference and asks his permission to do a quick check on him. There have been rising cases of the fiendish cult trying to infiltrate their sect. For security reasons, Yang asks Han to display his spiritual energy. Han agrees, and with one flick of his finger, He cuts through a hill nearby. The guards and Yang stare at him bewildered. Yang wonders how his sword technique can be this powerful based on his cultivation. Nevertheless, he invites Han to the Outer Sect for registration and declares him to be an Outer Sect disciple of the Jade Pure Sect. Han accompanies Yang, while Yang acquaints him of the Outer Sect. He tells Han there are 2,000 disciples in the Outer Sect. Every 3 years, a competition is organized where the top 3 will receive a Foundation Establishment pill. The pills helps a 9th level Qi Refinement Realm Cultivator breakthrough to the Foundation Establishment Realm. Yang gets curious when Han asks if the Jade Pure Sect has places to cultivate lightning and fire spiritual Qi. He tells Han there aren't any in the Outer Sect, but there are places in the Inner Sect. He adds that possessing lightning cultivation potential is rare, so he can appeal to the Elder Hall, and the sect might provide him with special treatment. Han displays his lightning potential, and in an almost threatening tone, asks Yang to nominate him. Together they go to the Elder Hall, and Yang tells the man there about Han's lightning potential. The older man suggests Han go through an assessment test. Han wants to keep a low profile, but also wants to be complacent about it. So when he's asked to show his potential, Han ends up showing 3 types of cultivation potential. He is immediately adorned with all the necessary things he will require in the Inner Sect. The older man asks him to rest and says he will report it to the Great Elder once he returns, and they will then bring him into the Inner Sect. Once he reaches his accommodation, Han decides to cultivate his fire potential to the 9th level, since he can sense fire spiritual Qi there. He sits and meditates with just one thought in mind: immortality. He has waited for so long to cultivate, and now, with supreme potential, he can cultivate the potential in less time than others without his body giving out. He regrets disregarding his body in his previous life, but now all that matters to him is a long life. Half a year has passed when Yang comes to tell Han that Great Elder has finally returned. He is shocked to find that Han never left his room and had been cultivating without realizing that much time has passed. Yang is overwhelmed by such a strong aura. After coming out of a 6-month meditation, Han greets the First Elder. Yang and the Elder sing in Han's praise about tremendously improved cultivation potential. The Great Elder agrees as he can sense his temperament similar to that of an Inner Sect disciple. He then tells Han that for him to become a member of the Inner Sect, he will need a master. There are 18 coaching elders for 18 peaks they have in the Inner Sect. If he can make any coach like him, he can directly become an Inner Sect disciple. But if not, then Han will have to compete his way in to reach the Foundation Establishment. Han is ready to meet the Masters. The Great Elder and Han embark on the journey to the Inner Sect. On the way, the Great Elder tells Han that each Master has a personality akin to their style. Upon asking Han which style he prefers, Han replies he would like to be a low-profile cultivator. The Great Elder gives him a mischievous look and recommends they go to Jade Serene Peak. With the speed of light, they travel to reach the peak. On the way, they see practitioners flying on their swords. Seeing Han look at them in awe, the Great Elder says he doesn't need to admire them, as he will be able to do this soon. They soon reach the Inner Sect of the Jade Pure Sect. However, when they reach the Jade Serene Peak, it turns out to be the shortest of all the peaks. The place looks deserted, so the Great Elder tells Han that this peak has the least amount of disciples. He further explains that Fairy Tai Xuan, the master of the Jade Serene Peak, likes to cultivate in seclusion. She also doesn't allow her disciples to develop feelings for one another, making them ascetics. Han's eyes twinkle with excitement as this is all he wants. This very peculiar man also perturbs the Great Elder. They finally meet Fairy Tai Xuan, and the Great Elder explains Han's skills. They are soon interrupted by another disciple, Chan Yuer, who is smitten by Han's charm. But after hearing Han's request for complete seclusion for 100 years, she changes her mind. Fairy Tai Xuan asks Han to attack her with all he's got as she wants to see his abilities. So Han uses his sword Qi and attacks Fairy Tai Xuan. She is impressed by his skills. Both women end up having a favorable impression of Han. Fairy Tai Xuan grants Han permission to stay. The Great Elder also retreats. Han finds Fairy Tai Xuan staring at him. Han's smug mind starts wandering in directions only he can explain until Chan Yuer puts a stop to it and asks if he is not going to acknowledge Fairy Tai Xuan as his master. That is enough to deflate his ego, and he goes down on his knees in front of Fairy Tai Xuan, embarrassing her. Fairy Tai Xuan instructs Chan Yuer to escort Han to his cave abode. Chan Yuer drags Han with her and introduces herself. She makes him ride a sword and has decided to take special care of this junior of hers. She had been waiting for 5 years for such an opportunity. After seeing Chan Yuder fawn over him, Han doubts the veracity of the claims made by the great elder of the disciples being ascetics. He wonders if all the female disciples are like Chan Yuder. They soon reach his cave abode. After thanking Chan Yuder, Han starts thinking about the pressure he's feeling for the first time since he started cultivation. He is reminded of the levels of cultivation, which starts with chi refinement. After chi is fully absorbed, the cultivators then focus on the foundation establishment, which in turn leads to achieving the golden core. After the absorption of all the essence, chi, and divine energy, the golden core cracks open, and one is enabled to use the power of the nascent. Theri Kaixuan is in the nascent soul realm. Only the founder of the Jade Pure Sect was able to achieve a realm higher than the nascent soul realm. He has been away and hasn't returned for many years, making Theri Kaixuan the strongest cultivator Han has met. He prepares himself to work hard and not let his master down. For the next 3 years, he lives in seclusion and cultivates his potential. After 3 years, he comes out and decides to learn the flying sword technique. It is a piece of cake for him, as he already possesses sword do aptitude, which allows him to ride a sword without going through the hassle of putting protective rails to prevent himself from falling. Suddenly, he hears Theri Kaixuan's voice calling his name. He was on his way to meet her, so taking the opportunity, he tells her that he has cultivated wind and fire cultivation to the 9th level of the chi refinement realm. He wants to know where he can go to cultivate his thunder cultivation potential. He secretly plans to cultivate all 6 of them. But to his surprise, Theri Kaixuan refuses to grant him permission to do so. Theri Kaixuan explains that specializing in a single attribute of spiritual chi is extremely difficult. In the future, he will have to face heavenly tribulations that will be stronger than others. Han understands but still pushes to be allowed to cultivate, assuring her that with his determination and hard work, he will succeed. A gentle smile appears on Theri Kaixuan's face. She allows Han to use the intersects teleportation formation leading to the Thunder spiritual pool. Han is grateful and soon leaves. He arrives at the Thunder spiritual pool, which is nothing like a small fish pond that he had imagined. The intense Thunder spiritual chi emanating from the teleportation formation surprises him. He decides to move closer to the center to enable efficient Thunder spiritual chi cultivation, raising it directly to the 9th chi level. Suddenly, an elongated woody face appears behind Han, scaring him out of his wits. The face tells Han to meditate by the pool. He warns against wandering around the Thunder spiritual pool, or else he'll have to face dire consequences. Han turns and screams like a girl. One other man cultivating at a distance witnesses this all. Han quickly gains his composure and compliments the tree spirit talking to him. Regardless of the tree spirit's demonic facial features, they are very beneficial as cultivating near them can increase the efficiency to double. Han is suddenly enthusiastic about cultivating his Thunder spiritual chi from scratch in a year. The cultivator hears it and thinks Han is a fool. It is impossible to do it within a year for someone whose purity is too low. 8 years passed, and the man is forced to take his words back. Han has cultivated all 6 types of spiritual energy to the max. He can now proceed to the foundation establishment. Han had dismissed his master's worry of heavenly tribulations being too strong if he cultivated too many attributes because he was confident in his cultivation method, which had a way of avoiding heavenly tribulations. Suddenly, a thundering vortex appears overhead. The tree spirit recognizes the thunder tribulation for breakthrough to the foundation establishment. He warns the cultivator to leave before he suffers for no fault of his. He adds that the tribulation cloud is set and nothing can save Han. Suddenly, lightning strikes Han. But miraculously, it doesn't have an impact on Han. The cultivator and tree spirit stare at Han in astonishment. With little effort, Han absorbs the heavenly thunder and turns it into the purest spiritual energy for his foundation establishment. This was his method of avoiding tribulations. He uses the Thunder spiritual pool for 2 more years and pays a rent of 100 superior grade spirit stones when he leaves. Once outside, the voice compliments him for being the best. The man introduces himself as Mo Fucho. He is the cultivator from the Thunder spiritual pool. He belongs to the Heavenly Thunder Peak. After a brief introduction, Mo proposes Han join Heavenly Thunder Peak, but Han politely declines. He has already acknowledged Theri Kaixuan as his master. Mo keeps the offer open. Something on the system catches Han's eyes, and he looks astonished. Han's system reminds him of his old friend Sing, who is being hunted down by the Jade Pure Sect. She was severely injured, but she managed to escape. Han is perplexed that Sing's feeling towards him has increased many folds even after it has been many years since he last saw her. He tries to shake this thought when he hears bells ringing. Chang suddenly appears, inviting him to accompany her to see the master. However, she drops to the floor when she sees his aura. She realizes he has achieved the Foundation establishment realm. With tears in her eyes, she tries to hide her embarrassment of being surpassed by her junior and asks him to tag along. She explains that the master uses the bells to summon all her disciples. There is speculation among the disciples that the meeting could be about the recent instances of the spies of the viridescent nether cult infiltrating the Jade Pure Sect. Suddenly, all eyes turn toward Han upon his arrival. His charm is such that not many can resist it. Liu Sangson, the chief disciple of Jade Serene Peak, introduces himself to Han. Soon Fairy Taek Swan arrives and informs them that it has been decided to send disciples from the last 3 peaks of the 18 peaks to fight against the viridescent nether cult. Recently, the sect has come up with a nurturing program that targets the most outstanding geniuses of each peak. They will be groomed together to become the trump cards of the younger generation of the Jade Pure Sect. A murmur spreads around, wondering who would be selected. Liu thinks he will be selected since he is the first disciple. But to everybody's surprise, but most of all Liu and Han's surprise, Fairy Taek Swan chooses Han as he has proved to be a genius for achieving the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment realm in just a few years. Han, however, recuses himself, rendering Liu the opportunity. Liu cries tears of joy as Fairy Taek Swan chooses him. Liu is beyond happy after getting the opportunity, and he thanks Han for that. Chang joins them and introduces Han to the sect missions. Han is reluctant, so Chang tells him that cultivation in the cave abode is very slow. But if he completes sect missions, he will obtain greater cultivation resources. Han still sticks to his decision of cultivating peacefully. Chang tries again and tells him that completing missions will reward him with contribution points, and he can exchange them for pills. Han finally reveals that he is afraid of losing his life, so he is happy to cultivate. Chang is surprised and mocks him, asking how cultivators can be afraid of death, but Han retorts by asking her a counter question. If she is not afraid of losing her life, then why does she cultivate? This repartee renders Chang speechless. Chang calls him a coward and walks away. Fairy Taek Swan has been observing their bickering. She had her doubts about Han, but now she knows he is not the spy from the fiendish cult. But just to be sure, she decides to keep her eyes on him. 10 years pass, and Han goes back to the Thunder spiritual pool. The spirit tree calls him a stinky brat and asks him why he is at the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment after so many years. Unbeknownst to him, Han is at the 5th level of the Foundation establishment. Just then, Mo Fucho appears and greets Han. He then introduces his younger sister Mo Zhu from the same clan. She too can't see Han's true level and thinks he is at the 3rd level, which is contrary to the praises Mo Fuchao sang of Han. Han tries to give a diplomatic answer before resuming his cultivation. He can't afford to lose any time as it costs him a lot of spirit stones to stay at the pool for the desired time. He then advises them to keep a distance while he cultivates. Mo Zhu blabbers in self-praise about how she broke through 2 levels in 10 years. Suddenly, all the surrounding spiritual chi starts getting absorbed into Han as he sits in meditation. Mo Fuchao and Mo Zhu are astonished to see the speed at which the energy is being absorbed. Mo Fuchao realizes Han has a way of suppressing his cultivation level. He is afraid Han's cultivation level has caught up to his, which is the 9th level of the Foundation establishment realm. Han cultivates for 8 years, and finally, his cultivation potential reaches the 9th level. He decides to visit the inner sect to get his salary, as it has been a long since he last went to get it. The tree spirit has also come to realize that Han is able to suppress his cultivation potential. He presents him with an opportunity. Han asks if it is dangerous. Tree spirit matter-of-factly says that all opportunities come with a risk. This is enough for Han to turn around and start walking away. Tree spirit calls after him, furious, as what appears to be a nerve starts to pop up on his face. But Han wants to stay true to his no-risk policy in order to live a long life. He reaches the inner sect, and all eyes turn as he walks past them. His smug self emerges, and he sighs as he is irked for being so attractive. Just as he is waiting at Ku, he bumps into Mo Zhu. The other women start calling her names as she wraps her around his, Ignoring her slurs, she focuses on Han and asks for his help. She adds it would be a great opportunity for him. Han's face turns pale. Mo Zhu presses herself on Han's arm and says he wouldn't want to miss this opportunity as it would bring him prosperity. But before she can escalate things, Han yanks his arm away and asks Mo Zhu to behave herself. He excuses himself by saying he needs to cultivate. Mo Zhu starts throwing a tantrum, and when she's done, she finds Han gone. Han then hides behind a wall in the bushes to avoid confrontation from any more female cultivators. He hears two female cultivators comparing him to Mo Quiki from last year's Sect competition. Suddenly hearing about the competition makes his soul almost leave his body. He had forgotten all about the competition. He immediately goes to see his master and apologizes for missing such an important event. Fairy Taixuan is not upset as he thought, but she is more curious to know why he's hiding his cultivation, which seems to be stuck at the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment. Han confesses he is at the 9th level of the Foundation establishment real, but prefers to keep a low profile. Fairy Taixuan appreciates Han's hard work. Han is flattered and starts to speak but stops when he notices someone next to him. He finds the same cold eyes of Elder Iron staring back at him. He didn't even notice his presence until now. With a goofy face, he smiles at Elder. After a moment of staring at each other in silence, both men scream out each other's name in astonishment. Fairy Taixuan introduces Han to Elder Iron and tells him he is a new disciple in the Jade Serene Peak. Furthermore, she asks Han to call in Junior Iron, which Han dares not to do. Elder Iron is dumbfounded and regrets not noticing Han's abilities earlier when he had the chance. Suddenly, Chang's bombarding voice breaks Iron's thoughts, and she warns him against having any abominable thoughts about Jade Serene Peak's genius Han. Iron immediately apologizes and says he has learned his lesson. Fairy Taixuan intercepts their chit-chat and addresses Han. She assigns him the task of guarding the Jade Pure Sect's 10,000 demon realm. It is a place where the Jade Pure Sect raises its beasts. Chang is very excited and wants to accompany him, but Fairy Taixuan refuses, saying it is very dangerous as the beasts go berserk and even eliminate the cultivators. Han sweats excessively, thinking about the mission, and Fairy Taixuan's explanation about the place is not helping. She turns to Han and assures him not to worry as each peak is sending a disciple to guard the demon realm. She adds that the spirit chi is very concentrated there, and it will be suitable for Han to cultivate there. As long as he's attentive, he should be fine. Han has no choice but to accept his master's orders. After he leaves, Fairy Taixuan turns to Iron and asks him to resolve whatever feud he and Han are involved in because one day, Han will become the core disciple of Jade Serene Peak. It has been 1.5 years. Han has managed to cultivate the wind cultivation potential to the 6th level of the Foundation realm. But now he's bored. He decides to go for an inspection which is mandatory every once in a while, to avoid problems caused by monster riots. As Han walks, he spots a cute cat-like beast with big googly eyes. Seeing it as a harmless beast, Han moves forward. Just then, the cute fluffy beast turns into a full-grown beast resembling a panther and attacks Han. The beast slashes Han, but miraculously, Han escapes and jumps on a roof to maintain distance from the dangerous beast. He had used the 7 illusionary steps technique to make the beast believe it slashed through his body. Han is perplexed that the forbidden spells weren't triggered when the beast entered the realm. Han again uses the 7 illusionary steps technique and creates 7 after images of himself. He intimates his images of the beast's ability to bypass forbidden spells and its super-fast speed. Han then surrounds the beast, and all the images use the Divine Finger Sword all at once at the beast. This was to scare the beast because only the main body could deliver the blow. The beast runs away with just a single injury on its leg. Han wonders if the little beast caused the recent demon beast riots. He then goes to report the incident to the elders. An emergency meeting is conducted where the masters of the 18 peaks gather, and they speculate that this is the viridescent nether cult's doing. They are using beasts to wreak havoc in the 10,000 demon realm. They even suspect a traitor among the higher-ups. Old Immortal Taoist Thunder, the Thunder Peak Master, seconds the speculation. He then turns towards Fairy Taixuan and asks for her opinion, but she would rather remain quiet. He only trusts Fairy Taixuan and asks her to join hands with him so they can figure out who the traitor is. After all, they have been students to the same master. It is decided to send more disciples to the 10,000 demon realm. 2 more years have passed. Han is still in the 10,000 demon realm. He is very pleased with the distribution of the forbidden spells he has distributed in different parts of the beast realm. Each of Han's spiritual powers has reached the 6th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. He is halfway to achieving the Golden Core realm. He is lost in his thoughts when a voice asks him if he's using the beast realm as his training ground. Without thinking much, Han admits to doing so. Then he realizes what just happened and turns pale as a ghost. He turns to see a man with crazy hair and glowing eyes standing behind him. Han is blown away by the man, who is surprisingly unaffected by the forbidden spell unless he is above the Golden Core realm. Seeing Han panicking, the man with crazy hair asks him not to panic and explains that he is also a disciple of the Jade Pure Sect, sent to look after the demon realm. The man looks at Han and correctly guesses his level of Foundation Establishment realm, even though Han has suppressed it. The man then asks Han if he voluntarily came there or was sent by his master. Han confirms his master sent him, but when Han refuses to disclose the mission he was given by his master, the older man, with a menacing look, states that Han has got himself into trouble. He asks Han to follow him for the sake of his master, and he'll help Han deal with the trouble. Just then, Han looks the man up in the system, which shows his name is Lai Kingzi, and he is the master of the Jade Pure Sect. The additional information mentions that he adores Fairy Kayak Swan. Lai Kingzi warns that the beasts are likely to go berserk. He adds that the beasts are all Tiger Heart White Dragon subordinates. Since Tiger Heart White Dragons look out for revenge, it has most likely summoned many beasts to prepare for a riot. Lai Kingzi wants to know how Han provoked the Tiger Heart White Dragon. But Han remains silent as he is lost in lewd thoughts about Fairy Kayak Swan and Lai Kingzi's relationship. He concludes Lai Kingzi doesn't deserve her. Lai Kingzi calls out to him again, and this time Han narrates his encounter with the Tiger Heart White Dragon from 2 years ago. Lai Kingzi concludes that the phenomenon of beasts going berserk was not caused by Han. That means it was most probably the Nether cult. Lai Kingzi is amazed that Han was able to match the Demon King's speed, and asks him about his technique. Han doesn't want to disclose, so he is sly with the explanation, and says it is a movement technique that he picked on the road, baffling Lai Kingzi, as even the master of the Golden Core realm won't be able to beat Tiger Heart's speed. Lai Kingzi suggests they deal with the cause of beasts going frenzy. He proposes Han tame the beast. He speculates Han's master must have assessed his potential and sent him to the 10,000 demon realm to earn merit. Han turns and starts walking away. He is not ready to sacrifice his life to tame so many beasts. Lai Kingzi is not ready to give up. He says he'll help Han by setting a formation that will trap the beasts and help Han bear the pressure. He then lures Han and tells him if he successfully tames the Tiger Heart White Dragon, he will be rewarded with the Jade Pure Sect's ultimate technique. Han knows if he tames the Demon King, he will earn its hatred and viridescent Nether cult. He instantly rejects the proposal and walks away. Frustrated, Lai Kingzi stomps his foot and wonders why Fairy Kayak Swan chose such a stubborn disciple. Suddenly, the Demon King appears behind Lai Kingzi, who is left with no choice but to face it alone. Chang and one other disciple make their way to the 10,000 demon realm to help Han curb the beast's menace. They are walking when they come across a patch of woods where the trees have been cut. They first think it is the beast doing, but then realize that somebody used the unparalleled sword technique. Chang and the other disciples soon arrive at the 10,000 demon realm and meet Han. Chang is very excited to see Han, but Han avoids being jumped on by her and goes to meet the other disciple. The disciple introduces himself as Meng Yi. Meng is the 7th senior brother of Jade Serene Peak and has achieved the 9th level of the Foundation Establishment realm. Meng asks about the chopped trees, and Han explains he was attacked by the beasts, but a senior saved him. Sensing the gravity of the situation, Meng decides to check out the area while Chang rests. Han wonders if Lai Kingzi is in the beast realm because of the viridescent Nether cult's invasion. Han suddenly turns to Chang and, with a stone-cold expression, proposes that they should leave the beast realm. Just then, a badly injured Meng walks in. A huge demonic beast attacked him. He explains he saw a group of demonic beasts that were trapped within an array from afar, and just as he was heading back, he encountered a Golden Core realm demon that attacked him. Meng starts coughing blood. Han thinks it was reckless of Meng to wander around in the wild. They suddenly feel the presence of many demonic entities making their way toward their pavilion. Han contemplates running as the barrier may not be able to hold so many beasts. But Chang opposes it as it would be considered desertion. Chang sides with Han, and the three quickly make their way out before the beasts turn their pavilion to dust. The beasts don't stop there and keep running. The three realize they were not their target. Suddenly, a giant golden core realm beast flies overhead them. Han saves Chang from its attack and Meng runs for his life. Chang brings Han's notice to the 7 to 8 giant golden core realm beasts above them. She cries, thinking they are doomed. Finally, Han reveals he is not as yellow-bellied as he appears to be and displays his prowess as he activates 3 pure shadow sword technique, which turns sword chi into sword shadows with a maximum of 3 different attributes. With that power, he takes down the golden core realm beasts. Chang sits on the ground, stupefied by what just happened. She can't wrap her head around the fact that her junior is so powerful. She finds herself getting attracted to Han's cold eyes while he was fighting. Just then, timid Han appears. He has a grin on his face as he has collected a huge haul of materials from beasts that he plans to exchange for spirit stones. Chang sighs at his plight. They head back to the Jade Serene Peak. Chang is furious at Meng for leaving them to fend for their lives and plans to complain about him to her master. Once they reach the teleportation formation at the Pure Jade Sect, Meng comes running to them, shedding crocodile tears that they have returned safely. But he is met with Chang's shoe, and he ends up with a bloody nose. He apologizes profoundly, but Chang is not done beating him. Han is surprised by the number of stones he got in return for eliminating the beasts. He didn't know it was that profitable. He suddenly feels the urge to go back, but Chang stops him. She tells him that the 10,000 demon realm is a small world where the beasts are supposed to be nurtured as they are valuable. Under normal circumstances, the disciples are not allowed to harm them. Since their situation was special, they won't be held responsible. Han decides he'll concentrate on cultivation. They soon meet Fairy Taek Swan. Han apologizes for returning and wishes not to go back. He says he is ready to face any punishment. Fairy Taek Swan asks him if he'll be okay if he isn't allowed to cultivate for 100 years. Han is shocked. Chang intervenes and tries to defend Han by complaining about Meng abandoning them. But Fairy Taek Swan dismisses her by saying that Meng didn't do anything wrong, as it is better to have one survivor bring intel than all 3 losing their lives together. She then asks Meng and Chang to leave. Han is frightened, thinking about what Fairy Taek Swan is going to say to him. After the 2 leave, Fairy Taek Swan turns to Han and asks him what he is cultivating for. Han replies he is seeking immortality through cultivation. Fairy Taek Swan makes him understand that he cannot keep living forever like this without grasping any opportunities, but Han says he wants to increase his cultivation level first to have sufficient skills to compete for opportunities in the future. Fairy Taek Swan is irked by Han's reluctance, even after she had provided him with an opportunity at the 10,000 Beast realm. He would have become a core disciple if he had succeeded. She tries to tempt him one last time. She tells him about a cave abode that is at par with the Thunder spiritual pool, and along with that, it has other types of spirit chi. Han is suddenly interested. Fairy Taek Swan adds that it is only available to the top 3 participants in the inner sect assessment. Han's demeanor changes again to reluctance, and he asks if the assessment is dangerous. Fairy Taek Swan's other vein pops up, and she says there is no harm to life in the competition. Han continues asking many such questions, making Fairy Xi's several nerves pop. Finally, Han proclaims that he will win the competition for the Jade Serene Peak, leaving Fairy Xi frustrated after she fails to tempt him. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment if you want another part of this manhwa.